Let's talk now to Radhika Desai, the Professor of Political Studies at the University of Manitoba in Canada. Professor, welcome. Good to see you. Just how significant was this summit in Brussels?
Well, I think that Mark Carney certainly would like to see it as a sort of centerpiece of the manner in which he would like to essentially adapt Canada to the very, very unpredictable situation in which the Trump administration has cast it. Of course, you remember that Canada, along with Mexico, is among the closest trading partners with the United States. So they are looking to reorient their relationships towards other partners. Now, one would have thought that a logical partner towards which Mr. Carney should be reorienting Canada's relations, both trade-related, investment-related, all sorts of things, including security-related, could be China. But from the beginning, even during the campaign, Mark Carney was very clear that it was not going to be China, I think partly, well, for various reasons, and therefore he had always named the European Union as the entity towards which he would like to reorient Canada's relations. Now, the European Union, of course, is as a collection of countries, a bigger economy than China. But of course, China is the more dynamic. So I think that what Carney has in mind is that this reorientation that he envisages for Canada is not going to make any concession to the rise of China, to the multipolar world, but instead is going to go closer to the European Union in a move that is going to keep Canada in exactly the same mold of orientation to the world as before, as under the Biden administration, that is to say, aggressive towards Russia, hostile also towards China to a significant extent, and, and allying with Europe in a move that appears to be countering the US, but really may well be keeping the seat warm for either the Trump administration to change its mind, keeping the seat warm for the US, for either the Trump administration to change its mind, or 4 years down the road, a new administration to take office. So it's like a status quo orientation.
Okay. I mean, geography was never my strong point, but Canada's geographically quite far away from Europe, isn't it? I mean, what is Canada's concern, really, in terms of defence?
Well, I think at the moment, well, first of all, you're quite right. Exactly how Canada and the EU will defend one another is an open question. It's not clear what commitments have been made. And of course, people always forget that the commitments that NATO countries have made to one another is actually very loose. It allows each individual country to judge exactly how much it's going to help another member country should it be attacked. So but nevertheless, so that's a little bit further down the road. But what they have done is that essentially by signing this pact, they have given Canada and Canadian defense production companies access to a fund that is going to the $150 billion fund, which will give contracts to companies both within Europe and outside. That Canadian companies can now participate in bidding for these in order to improve Europe's defense preparedness. This is part of course, the new commitment that Europe has made to increase its defense spending, possibly up to 5% of GDP. So this is what Canadian corporations will now be able to enjoy, is access to put in contracts for such, or bids for such contracts.
Very briefly, there has been this mention of Canada joining the EU. I mean, how realistic is that? I mean, given that Mark Carney was working in the Bank of England when the UK left the EU, is Canada, and is he, do you think, keen to join the EU?
I think that actually he has made noises to that effect. But interestingly, from what I've read, the EU officials have politely said, no, this is not on the cards. So, for whatever reason, I think that, quite frankly, the EU has enough trouble integrating its own member states. So exactly how they are going to include Canada and such a country that is so far away from the EU, this is a difficult proposition. But I think it's just part of Carney's very European orientation.
Professor, good to see you. Thanks so much for coming on the programme. Professor Radhika Desai, Professor of Political Studies at the University of Manitoba in Canada.